The city of Valerian shone under twin moons, its spires reflecting like silver in the canals below. Humans were rare here, and their presence often drew curious glances. Yet Commander Cale Reynolds walked with quiet confidence, a human among a sea of Vulpine diplomats. His mission was clear: protect Lady Serena, the most important diplomat of the Vulpine Council during the peace talks. From the first moment Cale saw her, he felt a strange mix of admiration and respect. Lady Serena moved with elegance, each step careful, her amber eyes scanning the room with sharp intelligence. She was beautiful, yes, but more than that, she carried herself with authority. Cale, trained to notice danger, also noticed the tension surrounding her. The Vulpine Council was strict, and humans were often underestimated. Cale did not care. His duty was clear: keep her safe no matter the cost. The gala hall was magnificent. Light shimmered off silver fountains, and delegates wore ceremonial robes that glowed faintly under the artificial moonlight. Cale's eyes never left Serena. Even surrounded by hundreds, she seemed to hold her own small world, untouchable yet fragile. "Commander Reynolds," Serena said, her voice smooth but commanding. "I trust you are ready for any disturbances?" Cale nodded, the hint of a smile touching his lips. "Always, Lady Serena. No one will harm you while I am here." She returned a brief smile, but it did not reach her eyes. There was worry there, a cautiousness that Cale understood. He had seen it before in humans, but now he saw it in an alien species. The weight of responsibility pressed on both of them, though in different ways. Hours passed. Speeches were given. Agreements were signed. The hall buzzed with polite conversation, the hum of diplomacy. Cale remained vigilant, his hand resting on the hilt of his energy blade beneath his uniform. His eyes swept constantly, catching every shadow, every movement that seemed out of place. And then he saw it, a figure moving against the flow of diplomats, moving too quickly, too silently. Cale's instinct screamed danger. Before he could react, a burst of blinding light erupted near the entrance. Chaos followed. Shouts, screams, and panicked footsteps filled the hall. Cale's heart pounded. In one fluid motion, he lunged forward, placing himself between Lady Serena and the threat. The first blast hit him squarely in the shoulder. Pain shot through his body, hot and sharp, but he did not falter. He gritted his teeth, pressing Serena behind him, shielding her with his own body. Blood soaked his uniform, sticky and warm. Every human instinct screamed to fight, to survive, but also to protect. He could feel her small, trembling hands clutching his arm. Serena's eyes widened, her tail flicking nervously behind her. Her calm composure, so carefully maintained, cracked under the fear she tried to hide. For a moment, the world seemed to slow. Cale's mind focused only on one thing: keep her alive. "You'll be safe," he muttered, more to himself than to her. "I won't let anything touch you." He pushed forward, stumbling slightly, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. Every step was agony, every breath a battle. Yet his resolve was unbroken. He was human, and humans, he knew, could endure far more than they seemed capable of. The attackers were fast, precise, but Cale was faster. He deflected a strike meant for Serena, absorbing the blow himself. Pain coursed through his body, but he forced himself upright. Lady Serena's amber eyes locked onto his, and for a fleeting second, there was understanding, a silent acknowledgement of bravery and sacrifice. Cale's blood stained the marble floor, his uniform torn and burned in places, yet he held his ground. In that moment, he was more than a human soldier. He was a shield, a promise, a force the Vulpine Council had never anticipated. He would bleed. He would hurt. He would fight. But no one would harm Lady Serena while he drew breath. The hall was chaos. Cries of fear mixed with the metallic hum of energy weapons. Cale's breath came in sharp bursts, his shoulder throbbing from the first blast. But he did not falter. He gripped his energy blade tighter and moved to shield Lady Serena. Every human instinct screamed to protect, to endure, to fight against overwhelming odds. "Stay behind me," Cale shouted, dragging Serena toward a side corridor. The floor trembled under the weight of panic, and debris fell from chandeliers swaying from the shockwave. Serena's delicate hands pressed against his arm. "You cannot do this alone, human," she said, her voice urgent but controlled. Cale shook his head, pain lancing through his side. "I don't need permission," he growled. His words were simple but full of human stubbornness, the kind that refused to bow in the face of danger. They reached a tall, carved pillar and ducked behind it. Smoke curled through the corridor, and the metallic scent of burning circuits stung their noses. Cale glanced down. Blood had soaked through his uniform, dark and heavy. Pain radiated through him like fire, but adrenaline drowned it out. He would not let her see him falter. Not now, not ever. From the shadows, one attacker emerged, a figure cloaked in dark armor moving with predatory precision. Cale met their strike, energy blade clashing with a hiss of sparks. Every motion was a struggle, but his human body moved faster than the attackers expected. Humans were underestimated, and Cale intended to prove why. Another attacker lunged for Serena, and Cale intercepted them, taking the hit himself. The pain was sharp and sudden, but he forced himself to remain standing, dragging Serena behind him. She gasped, a sound Cale had never heard before, and it made his chest tighten. Her safety was everything. He could endure pain, fatigue, even blood loss as long as she survived. "You cannot protect me," she whispered, panic threading her words. Yet in her amber eyes he saw something else. A spark, small but unmistakable, that told him she trusted him despite protocol, despite fear. Kyle gritted his teeth. "I bleed for you, Lady Serena. That's what humans do." His words were more than a promise. They were a declaration of the stubborn courage humans carried in their hearts. He had no superpowers, no magic, no advanced alien technology. He had determination, will, and heart. And that was enough. The attackers were relentless, but Cale's defense was a storm. Every human muscle burned, every breath a battle, yet he held his ground. He intercepted every strike aimed at her, his body moving before his mind could even think. Serena's eyes widened as she watched, a mixture of fear, disbelief, and admiration reflecting in them. Another attack came, faster this time. Cale blocked it but stumbled, his knee scraping against the polished stone floor. Pain screamed through his body, and blood flowed freely from multiple wounds. He looked at her, seeing her tail flick nervously, her normally calm demeanor shaken. "You cannot fall," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Her voice carried an unfamiliar tremor, but there was determination there too. She had been trained in diplomacy, not battle, and yet she understood the human spirit in this moment, the willingness to sacrifice everything for another life. Kyle's vision blurred at the edges, the world spinning, but his resolve did not break. He pressed forward, every step a testament to human endurance. The attackers were skilled, precise, and deadly, but humans were relentless. Cale would prove it, one strike at a time. As smoke filled the corridor and sparks rained from shattered energy conduits, Cale remained between Serena and the danger. He was wounded, bleeding, exhausted, yet every heartbeat told him the same thing. He would protect her, no matter the cost, and Serena, watching him, felt something she had never allowed herself before, a deep, undeniable admiration for this human who risked everything. Perhaps protocol, rules, and centuries of Vulpine etiquette meant nothing when courage like this stood before her. The corridor was chaos. Sparks flew from shattered conduits, smoke curled in thick waves, and the sounds of panicked footsteps echoed against the walls. Cale pressed Serena against a smooth stone pillar, keeping her safe while his energy blade danced between attackers. Every strike, every parry, carried the weight of human determination and sheer will. Pain screamed through his body. His shoulder burned, blood soaked his uniform, and each movement sent waves of agony down his side. But Cale refused to fall. His focus was unbroken. Every human instinct screamed to survive, yes, but above all to protect. Serena's life mattered more than his own. One attacker lunged, aiming straight for Serena. Cale moved like lightning, intercepting the strike with his body. The blade sliced across his chest, sharp and cruel. He staggered but remained standing, holding her close. She gasped, and for the first time he noticed the fear in her eyes. The same fear he had felt countless times in his life, yet tempered by courage. "You can't do this alone," Serena whispered, her voice trembling. But there was something beneath it, a spark of defiance, a silent plea that he survive. Cale's lips curved into a faint, pained smile. "I don't do anything alone," he said. "Humans endure. We protect, we bleed, and we fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." Her amber eyes softened. She had studied diplomacy for decades, mastered protocol, and learned patience in ways Cale could never imagine. But this This flawed, bleeding, stubborn human was different. He defied expectation, defied reason, and yet he did not falter. He was proof that courage was more than training. It was heart. The attackers pressed closer, faster now. Kale's muscles burned, his vision blurred, and the taste of copper filled his mouth. Every step was agony. Every strike was a gamble. He could feel his energy waning, but he refused to let it show. "Sire." Na's hands clutched his arm, her slender fingers trembling. She wanted to help, to act, but her training warned her. A diplomat must not interfere, must not break protocol. Yet as she watched him bleed, the truth became undeniable. Some rules, she realized, were meaningless in the face of bravery. Kyle was human, and humans were relentless. They would endure pain, suffering, and death itself to protect those they valued. Without thinking, without hesitation, she reached out. A faint glow pulsed from her hands, Vulpine energy, strictly forbidden to use on a human. The laws of her people demanded restraint, yet in that moment Serena's instincts overruled them. A wave of energy shot from her palms, hitting the attackers with precision. The blast sent them sprawling, smoke curling around their stunned forms. Silence fell, broken only by Kale's ragged breathing. He looked at her in disbelief. "You broke protocol." "I saved you," Serena said simply, amber eyes fierce. "I could not watch you fall. Some rules are not worth dying for." Kale's chest heaved, blood dripping from his wounds, but a spark of awe lit his eyes. She had shattered centuries of custom, tradition, and expectation, all for him. In that instant, he understood something profound. Courage was not the exclusive domain of any one species. It was universal. Serena's hands glowed faintly as she steadied herself, energy dissipating into the air. She had crossed a line no diplomat had ever dared. And yet she did not regret it. Not for a second. Kale's lips curved into a small, grateful smile. "Humans endure pain," he whispered. "But sometimes, they need allies too." For the first time, Serena saw him not just as a soldier, not just as a protector, but as a human willing to sacrifice everything for another life. And in that recognition, something fragile yet powerful began to form, a connection that transcended species, law, and fear. Outside, the corridor was calm once more. The attackers were neutralized, unconscious or retreating. Kyle leaned against the pillar, blood streaking his uniform, muscles trembling. Serena knelt beside him, hands brushing against his wounds, a quiet determination in her touch. "You saved me," she said, voice barely a whisper. "And I saved you, together." Kale's lips lifted in a faint, tired grin. "Together," he echoed. And for the first time he felt the weight of human endurance matched by the courage of another. Not just human courage, not just Vulpine law, but a bond forged in the heat of battle, pain, and sacrifice, and in that moment, they both understood something they would never forget. Sometimes, to protect what you love, rules must be broken, and courage must rise above fear. The courtyard was quiet now, almost eerily so. Smoke drifted lazily into the twin-mooned night, and the soft hum of the city in the distance reminded them that life went on outside their chaos. Kale slumped against the fountain, each breath sharp and heavy, blood seeping through his uniform. Pain gnawed at him, a relentless reminder of every strike, every sacrifice. Serena knelt beside him, her amber eyes wide with worry. Her hands glowed faintly, brushing against his wounds, trying to heal the worst of the cuts. Her face was pale, but her gaze was steady, focused on keeping him alive. Kale looked at her, seeing a side of the diplomat no one else would ever glimpse, humanity hidden behind centuries of protocol. "You shouldn't have done that," Kale rasped, voice hoarse, his chest rising and falling unevenly. "You could have been hurt, exiled, even killed, all because of me." Serena shook her head, her tail curling around her feet. "I couldn't let you die, Kale. You showed me what humans are. I could not watch you bleed for me and do nothing. Some rules, some laws, they aren't worth your life." Kale managed a weak smile, wincing at the pain. "Humans endure," he whispered. "We protect, we fight, we bleed. That's who we are." His hand trembled as he brushed a strand of hair from her face. "But I didn't expect anyone, especially not a Vulpine diplomat, to break centuries of protocol for me." Serena's amber eyes softened. "Maybe some rules are meant to be broken when life is at stake. I have studied diplomacy for decades, yet I have never seen courage like yours. Never." Kale's head leaned back against the fountain, and for a moment, the weight of exhaustion threatened to pull him under. But Serena's presence grounded him. Her hands lingered on his chest, not just healing, but offering warmth, connection, and acknowledgement. In the quiet aftermath of violence, something unspoken passed between them, a bond forged in the heat of battle, pain, and sacrifice. Slowly, guards arrived, rushing to assess the situation. They looked at Cale with surprise, shock, and a hint of awe. The humans had always been underestimated, seen as fragile, untested. Yet here he was, bleeding, battered, standing between Lady Serena and a threat that could have ended her life. Serena rose gracefully, standing tall despite her own adrenaline and exhaustion. Her gaze swept over the courtyard, measuring the cost, acknowledging the rules she had just broken. And though the council would not look kindly on her actions, she did not regret them. Not for a second. "Commander Reynolds," she said softly, voice carrying over the quiet courtyard. "Your courage, your endurance, it is remarkable. Humans are capable of far more than anyone believes." Kyle managed a faint chuckle, though blood stained his lips. "And some Vulpine diplomats," he said, his voice weak but teasing, "are capable of breaking every rule just to save a human." Her lips curved into a small, tired smile. "Perhaps some rules exist only to be tested," she replied, "and perhaps some humans are worth breaking them for." The night stretched on, calm and still. The attackers had been neutralized, either fleeing or unconscious, and the city's life continued, unaware of the silent heroism that had just occurred. Cale's wounds were grave, but he had survived. And Serena, she had learned something about courage, sacrifice, and the stubborn endurance of a human spirit. As the first light of the twin moons reflected off the fountains, Cale felt a sense of quiet pride mixed with pain. He had done what humans did best: endure, fight, and protect. And Serena had seen it. She had witnessed the very essence of humanity, and she had risked everything for it. For the first time, diplomacy and humanity collided in a way neither of them had expected. And in that quiet, wounded moment, a bond was formed that neither rules, protocol, nor centuries of custom could undo. Kyle leaned back against the fountain and Serena knelt beside him, their gazes locking in unspoken understanding. "You bled for me," she said, softly, almost reverently. "And I would do it again," Cale replied, pain etched into every word. Humans always do, and in that shared silence, they both knew. Courage could bridge worlds, sacrifice could transcend rules, and the human heart could inspire even the most disciplined of diplomats to break protocol for what truly mattered. Weeks had passed since that night of chaos, yet the memory of it lingered for both Cale and Serena. The halls of the Vulpine embassy were calm now, diplomatic meetings resuming with careful precision. But for the two of them, nothing felt the same. Cale's body was healing, muscles repairing, wounds closing, but his mind replayed every moment in the courtyard. Every flash of danger, every strike he had taken, every heartbeat spent protecting her. Serena, meanwhile, had felt the weight of what she had done. She had broken protocol, shattered centuries of Vulpine tradition, and yet, when she thought of Cale's bloodied but unbroken form, she felt no regret. His courage had shown her something no law or rule could teach: the raw, unyielding determination of humans. Kyle walked the embassy halls, still cautious of eyes that watched him curiously. Some diplomats whispered, some stared openly, and a few simply shook their heads. Humans were outsiders, often underestimated, and now, after the night of violence, they were also admired. Cale noticed all this, but he only had eyes for Serena. She moved through the halls with her usual grace, tail flicking slightly, amber eyes glinting with something unspoken. "You've recovered faster than expected," Serena said one afternoon, her voice calm but carrying a subtle warmth. She stood in the central hall, hands lightly folded, watching him approach. Kyle gave a small grin, though it was still tinged with the memory of pain. "Humans endure," he replied simply, "and some of us survive things most would not imagine." Her eyes softened, a faint smile appearing on her lips. "You taught me more than I could have imagined, Kyle. About courage, about persistence, about the heart." She stepped closer, just enough for him to notice the warmth in her presence. "I have studied diplomacy for decades, but you showed me something I could never have learned in books or protocols." Kyle's chest tightened. It was strange, this feeling, a mix of pride, exhaustion, and something deeper he could not name. He had risked everything, bled for her, and now she saw him. truly saw him. They walked together along the quiet canals of Valerian in the evenings. The city lights reflected on the water and the twin moons painted everything in silver. No one spoke of rules or protocol. Words were unnecessary. Each step they took together deepened their understanding, a silent connection growing stronger with every passing day. Serena shared moments she had never revealed to anyone. Childhood memories of her fox-like kin, fears she had kept buried behind diplomacy, and glimpses of a heart she rarely allowed others to touch. Kale, in turn, shared stories of Earth, of human perseverance, of struggles and victories that seemed small yet mattered immensely to those who fought them. Through these stories, laughter sometimes came, but so did silence. Comfortable and deep, a recognition of the bond forming between them. Kale noticed how her eyes lingered on him during discussions, how her tail flicked subtly when she was thinking, and how her normally strict composure softened in his presence. One evening, as the embassy lights dimmed, Kale looked at her and said softly, "I never thought anyone, any species, would risk everything for me." Serena's gaze met his, steady and unwavering. "I did," she replied simply. "Because you showed me courage. Because you showed me humanity. Some rules aren't meant to bind us. Some rules are meant to be broken when it matters most." Kale's chest swelled with an emotion he did not fully understand. Gratitude, awe, something warmer than pride. It was a human feeling he could not name, yet it filled him completely. In the quiet of the night, they stood together, two beings from different worlds, connected not by politics or duty but by respect, trust, and an understanding that went deeper than words. The bond forged in fire and blood had matured into something stronger, a recognition that courage, sacrifice, and heart could transcend species, law, and expectation, and in that recognition, they both knew that their lives had changed forever. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united by the experience of survival, the cost of loyalty, and the undeniable proof that humans could endure, could fight, and could inspire even the most disciplined of diplomats. The Vulpine council chambers were tense. Tall, elegant delegates sat in a semicircle, amber eyes narrowing as they regarded Lady Serena. She stood at the center, poised and graceful. Yet beneath the calm exterior, a storm of nerves threatened to break free. Behind her, Kale stood quietly, his uniform still bearing faint traces of battle. His presence a silent reminder of the night he had risked everything to protect her. "You have broken centuries of protocol, Lady Serena," the council's high chancellor said, voice cold and sharp. "You risked your position, your title, even the stability of our diplomatic relationships, for a human." Serena's tail flicked once, a subtle sign of tension. "Yes," she replied, voice steady but carrying weight. "I broke protocol." Her amber eyes met each counselor's gaze. "And I would do it again. Commander Kale Reynolds showed me courage, loyalty, and selflessness, the very values our people respect. I could not watch him suffer while I remained bound by rules." A murmur ran through the chamber. Delegates whispered, some outraged, others curious. Kale's presence alone, human outsider yet alive and strong, challenged their long-held beliefs. Humans were unpredictable, emotional, reckless, yet here he was, proof that courage and heart could transcend rules. "Your actions are unprecedented," another counselor said, voice tight. "You risked not only your life but the very order of our society. How can you justify this?" Serena inhaled deeply. "Because some rules are meaningless in the face of life. Because courage and sacrifice cannot be measured by protocol alone. Commander Reynolds bled for me, and I in turn broke rules to save him. That is the truth." Kale stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on the hilt of his energy blade, not in threat but as a gesture of support. "It's simple," he said, voice low but firm. "Humans fight for what matters. We endure pain, risk everything, and protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is who we are." There was silence in the chamber. No one had expected a human to speak, let alone command respect through words alone. Kale's presence, his bloodied uniform, and his unwavering courage left the council uneasy. Yet they could not argue with truth. Serena's gaze softened as she looked at him. The bond between them was clear, undeniable. She had broken rules, but she had also bridged two worlds, human and Vulpine, through courage and trust. "I will not apologize for my actions," she said firmly, "because Commander Reynolds reminded me that life is more important than protocol. That sometimes rules are meant to be broken for those who matter. The High Chancellor's eyes narrowed, but even he could not deny the impact. The room was heavy with tension, yet beneath it lay a grudging respect. Perhaps humans were unpredictable, but they were also capable of inspiring something greater. Courage, loyalty, and selflessness. Kale's gaze met Serena's. In that quiet exchange, they acknowledged each other's bravery. He had risked life and limb. She had risked her position, her honor, and the judgment of her people. Together they had shown that courage and heart could triumph over fear, prejudice, and even centuries of rigid tradition. As the council deliberated, whispers spread across the embassy halls. Humans were no longer seen as fragile outsiders. They were warriors of endurance, beings capable of inspiring even the most disciplined diplomats to reconsider their values. Kale's courage had proven that humanity, though small and imperfect, could leave a lasting mark on worlds far beyond their own. Later, when the chamber emptied, Serena and Kale walked together along the quiet corridors. The weight of the council's judgment hung in the air, but neither feared it. They had survived far worse. The bond forged through blood, sacrifice, and shared courage had grown stronger. Serena's hand brushed against Kale's arm lightly, a silent acknowledgement of respect, trust, and something deeper. "You showed me the truth of humanity," she whispered, almost to herself. Kale looked at her, his chest still heavy from old wounds, his body still aching. "And you showed me that even the strongest rules can be bent for what is right," he replied. In that quiet, charged moment, they understood something both profound and simple. Courage is universal. Sacrifice transcends law, and sometimes the heart must guide decisions more than tradition. And together, human and Vulpine, they were unstoppable. Years passed, but the memory of that night never faded. Kale's scars remained, a testament to human endurance, a permanent reminder of the courage he had shown. Serena's reputation had shifted in ways no one could have predicted. The diplomat who had broken centuries of protocol for a human became a symbol, not just of rebellion, but of understanding, trust, and the strength found in unexpected alliances. The Vulpine Council had been wary at first. Protocol, tradition, and rules were the backbone of their society, yet even the strictest counselors could not ignore the truth. The human who had bled for a Vulpine diplomat had changed their world forever. Stories of Kale's bravery circulated through the halls, whispered among students of diplomacy, told by guards who had witnessed him fight, remembered by those who had doubted humans' worth. Kyle and Serena had grown closer over time, bound by more than gratitude or respect. Their connection had been forged in fire, battle, and mutual sacrifice. It was not love in the way humans often imagined, nor in the way Vulpines wrote of in their ancient texts, but it was deeper than that. It was understanding, trust, a bond that had survived danger, defied rules, and endured judgment. In the quiet evenings, they would walk along the canals of Valerian. The twin moons reflected on the water, and the city lights shimmered like stars. No words were necessary. Each step together, each glance exchanged spoke volumes. Kale would sometimes recall the first time he had bled for her, the fire of battle, the ache of every wound, and Serena would remember the fear she had felt, and the choice she had made to break protocol and save a human. "You know," Kyle said one night, leaning against the fountain where it all began, "humans aren't supposed to do what I did. We're small, fragile. We shouldn't survive against beings like your attackers. And yet, here we are." Serena's amber eyes glimmered. "Courage is not measured by size or species," she replied softly. "It is measured by the heart, by willingness to risk everything for another. You bled for me, Kale, and I broke rules for you. That is proof enough," Kyle smiled faintly. "Then humans are more than I thought. And Vulpines," she said with a teasing flick of her tail, "can learn a lot from them." The city around them continued, unknowing of the bond that had changed the course of history. Kale's bravery had proven that humans were not fragile outsiders. They were forces of endurance, courage, and resilience. Serena's choice had shown that rules and protocols, while important, were never stronger than the truth of the heart. Across the galaxy, tales spread. Humans who once had been dismissed as weak or unpredictable were now respected. Stories of Kale's fight, of his bloodied determination, became lessons for diplomats, soldiers, and scholars alike. Humanity had left its mark not through conquest or domination, but through courage, sacrifice, and unwavering loyalty. In the quiet of her chambers, Serena often looked at Kao, reflecting on the journey they had shared. He had taught her that even the strongest rules could bend in the face of what truly mattered. And he had taught her that humanity was not just a species, it was an ideal, endurance, heart, and the relentless will to protect what one loved. Kale, for his part, looked at her with quiet pride and deep respect. He had bled for a Vulpine Diplomat, yes, but in doing so he had witnessed something extraordinary. A being of elegance, law, and tradition had shattered rules for him. She had shown him that courage and loyalty were universal, and that trust could cross any boundary. Together, they had changed perceptions, broken boundaries, and forged a legacy that would not be forgotten. Humans were no longer just outsiders in Valerian. They were beings of courage, endurance, and heart. And Lady Serena had proven that even the most disciplined, rule-bound species could recognize and honor that courage. As the twin moons rose high,